Fyodor Dostoevsky quotes. Fyodor Dostoevsky was an eminent Russian essayist, short story writer, novelist, philosopher, and journalist. His literary works cover human psychology and the unsettled social, spiritual and political atmospheres of 19th-century Russia. His works also engaged a wide ambit of religious and realistic philosophical themes. He started his writing career at 20 and published his first novel at the age of 25, which was titled Poor Folk. The Brothers Karamazov, The Idiot, Crime and Punishment and Demons are a few of his most acclaimed works. His works, thoughts, writings, books, novels, essays, and stories are widely read both within and beyond his native Russia. He has been an inspiration to a number of later Russian writers and philosophers. We bring to you some of the most popular quotes and sayings by the legendary writer of all times Fyodor Dostoevsky. Active love is a harsh and fearful thing compared with the love in dreams. Love in dreams thirsts for immediate action, quickly performed, and with everyone watching. Indeed, it will go as far as the giving even of one's life, provided it does not take long but is soon over, as on stage, and everyone is looking on and praising. Whereas active love is labor and persistence, and for some people, perhaps, a whole science. I don't need money, or, better, it's not money that I need, it's not even power, I need only what is obtained by power and simply cannot be obtained without power, the solitary and calm awareness of strength. That is the fullest definition of freedom, which the world so struggles over. In such situations, of course, people don't nurse their anger silently, they moan aloud, but these are not frank, straightforward moans, there is a kind of cunning malice in them, and that's the whole point. Those very moans express the sufferer's delectation. If he did not enjoy his moans, he wouldn't be moaning. Beggars, especially noble beggars, should never show themselves in the street, they should ask for alms through the newspapers. It's still possible to love one's neighbor abstractly, and even occasionally from a distance, but hardly ever up close. We sometimes encounter people, even perfect strangers, who begin to interest us at first sight, somehow suddenly, all at once, before a word has been spoken. Reason and knowledge have always played a secondary, subordinate, auxiliary role in the life of people, and this will always be the case. A people is shaped and driven forward by an entirely different kind of force, one which commands and coerces them and the origin of which is obscure and inexplicable despite the reality of its presence. It seems, in fact, as though the second half of a man's life is made up of nothing but the habits he has accumulated during the first half. The greatest happiness is knowing the source of unhappiness. The cleverest of all, in my opinion, is the man who calls himself a fool at least once a month. Man only likes to count his troubles, but he does not count his joys. Man is fond of counting his troubles, but he does not count his joys. If he counted them up as he ought to, he would see that every lot has enough happiness provided for it. Sarcasm, the last refuge of modest and chaste-souled people when the privacy of their soul is coarsely and intrusively invaded. There are things that a man is afraid to tell even to himself, and every decent man has a number of such things stored away in his mind. A real gentleman, even if he loses everything he owns, must show no emotion. Money must be so far beneath a gentleman that it is hardly worth troubling about. Power is given only to those who dare to lower themselves and pick it up. Only one thing matters, one thing, to be able to dare. Deprived of meaningful work, men and women lose their reason for existence, they go stark, raving mad. There is no subject so old that something new cannot be said about it. One can know a man from his laugh, and if you like a man's laugh before you know anything of him, you may confidently say that he is a good man. Happiness does not lie in happiness, but in the achievement of it. It is not possible to eat me without insisting that I sing praises of my devourer. To live without hope is to cease to live. Realists do not fear the results of their studies. If you were to destroy the belief in immortality in mankind, not only love but every living force on which the continuation of all life in the world depended, would dry up at once. Man, so long as he remains free, has no more constant and agonizing anxiety than finding as quickly as possible someone to worship. The formula 2 and 2 make 5 is not without its attractions. A novel is a work of poetry. In order to write it, one must have tranquility of spirit and of impression. Men do not accept their prophets and slay them, but they love their martyrs and worship those whom they have tortured to death. At first, art imitates life. Then life will imitate art. Then life will find its very existence in the arts. What is the hell? I maintain that it is the suffering of being unable to love. Destroy my desires, eradicate my ideals, show me something better, and I will follow you. If one wanted to crush and destroy a man entirely, to mete out to him the most terrible punishment, all one would have to do would be to make him do work that was completely and utterly devoid of usefulness and meaning. They were renewed by love, the heart of each held infinite sources of life for the heart of the other. She looked much younger than her age, indeed, which is almost always the case with women who retain serenity of spirit, sensitiveness, and pure sincere warmth of heart to old age. One must love life before loving its meaning, yes, and when the love of life disappears, no meaning can console us. A society should be judged not by how it treats its outstanding citizens but by how it treats its criminals. Man is sometimes extraordinarily, passionately, in love with suffering. Lack of originality, everywhere, all over the world, from time immemorial, has always been considered the foremost quality in the recommendation of the active, efficient and practical man. Man has such a predilection for systems and abstract deductions that he is ready to distort the truth intentionally. He is ready to deny the evidence of his senses only to justify his logic. I can see the sun, but even if I cannot see the sun, I know that it exists. And to know that the sun is there, that is living. A Russian soul is a dark place. A man who lies to himself, and believes his own lies, becomes unable to recognize truth, either in himself or in anyone else, and he ends up losing respect for himself and for others. May you be forever blessed for that moment of bliss and happiness that you gave to another lonely and grateful heart. Isn't such a moment sufficient for the whole of one's life? Perhaps I really regard myself as an intelligent man only because throughout my entire life I've never been able to start or finish anything. The world will be saved by beauty. 100 suspicions don't make proof. Dreams seem to be spurred on not by reason but by desire, not by the head but by the heart, and yet what complicated tricks my reason has played sometimes in dreams. The most offensive is not their lying. One can always forgive lying. Lying is a delightful thing, for it leads to truth. What is offensive is that they lie and worship their own lying. I think the devil doesn't exist, but man has created him. He has created him in his own image and likeness. Was it all put into words, or did both understand that they had the same thing at heart and in their minds so that there was no need to speak of it aloud, and better not to speak of it? I am strongly convinced that not only too much consciousness but even any consciousness at all is a sickness. The more incompetent one feels, the more eager he is to fight. What would life be if we had no courage to attempt anything? Taking a new step, uttering a new word, is what people fear most. To be in love is not the same as loving. You can be in love with a woman and still hate her. But men love abstract reasoning and neat systematization so much that they think nothing of distorting the truth, closing their eyes and ears to contrary evidence to preserve their logical constructions. Let us not forget that the reasons for human actions are usually incalculably more complex and diverse than we tend to explain them later, and are seldom clearly manifest. There is immeasurably more left inside than what comes out in words. Only through suffering can we find ourselves. To go wrong in one's own way is better than to go right in someone else's. At the end of the video, do not forget to like the video, and subscribe to the channel to receive all new